Hi, I'm Gregg LeFevre, creator and host of the Compulsive Storyteller Podcast. Welcome to another segment of Pass the Mic, where we invite talented guests, artists, writers, actors, musicians, and others to join us on the pod to tell a great story and or to chat with me about the art of storytelling. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Clayton Patterson, an artist, documentarian, storyteller, and a longtime resident of the Lower East Side and Lower Manhattan. Clayton creates a very popular series of Instagram Reels, which you can find at Clayton LES, that's at Clayton LES, where he interviews all sorts of Lower East Side locals. Hi, Clayton. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Greg.
So I have some questions for you. One of them is that what made you start your Instagram, Clayton LES? What was kind of the first impulse to do that?
I didn't really have an impulse for quite a long time. I had done MySpace, Facebook. My Facebook eventually got hacked. Somebody else was sort of controlling it, but it had my name and everything on it. So I kind of moved on from there, and then I found that these things take up so much time. But so many people I know swore by Instagram that I decided to give it a try. And so I started to do Instagram. And I liked it because I've taken pictures in front of my door at 161 Essex for like 40 years. And this way, it's kind of like doing my front door pictures, only with words. Mm-hmm. And I know you're supposed to do it like a minute or less or whatever, and you're only supposed to do one a day, but I do as many a day as I feel like it. And I make them often longer than 5 minutes. So I know that I'm not treading fast out there, but I'm hopefully treading deep.
So I know you've done thousands of stories, but are there a few that stand out as like spectacular to you or abysmal?
Yeah, I've had a few that are interesting. Yeah, I mean, if I started thinking about it. One was this guy, Tony, that was out in front of my place. See, when we first moved to the Lower East Side, I've lived in the Lower East Side really since 1979. In one place or another, either the Bowery, Broome Street, or in Essex Street. We moved into Essex in 1983. First night we were there, we saw somebody get shot across the street. It was a very heavy drug area where I am. It was kind of the forgotten. At one time they made a joke they were going to call it Nod, north of Delancey Street. In other words, because of all the heroin and stuff, people were nodding out all the time. So it was kind of the land of Nod, which it was. But on one particular day, I saw these, there's a couple of things. Like there's people living down there, like let's say Tom Otternes and his wife Colleen. And there was a guy called Jeffrey Lerner. And then there was Uli from Max Fish Bar. I used to have a guy called Alan Miller. He used to call himself Dr. Miller. He was a chemist. In the 60s, he had gone to jail for speed. He used to be, I believe it was 60 Clinton Street. And he used to manufacture speed down there. Then eventually he got caught and went to jail. But he used to deal to a number of people in the neighborhood because speed was very big in the 60s. I'm surprised it never came back, but it never really did. Not in the way that it was in the 60s. So so I documented him, and every time he used to come down, he'd buy heroin. But anyway, back to Tony. Tony, he used to have a brother, and his brother actually lived in a lot that was between. It was between 3rd and 4th, between C and D, because that was the same lot when the Satan Center Nomads had their clubhouse. So I had, Cochise, the head of the Satan Center Nomads, he knew that I collected heroin bags. So one day he gave me a heroin bag, and this was the night that I had this belief that that all of these shanties on this lot were going to burn down. So there was a guy who lived right next door to the Satan Center Nomad, their clubhouse, which was like a little small casita and a boxed-in area. I have a lot of videotapes from that period. So Pepe was the guy next door. Now, Pepe used to triple lock himself in with a really heavy lock. And he used to be in there at night with an elderly lady. So I decided I'm going to go down there and hang out with Pepe, because in case the fire happened. And if he was locked in, then it would be like tragic. So all of a sudden we're sitting there. He had it all hooked up. He had electricity, he had TV. We're sitting there watching TV. And all of a sudden I look behind me and there's a little window. And about 3 feet away is where the clubhouse was. And it was just a massive wall of fire. So I got Pepe out of there. So then I got him out. Then the fire department came. It's actually quite an exciting video. And so you have the firemen, and I told the firemen, save that Pepe's house there. So you could see they all moved over and shot all the hose onto the clubhouse, and Pepe's basically survived. And it was after that he actually got an apartment. And so when the fire was going on, I was down there videotaping. And this was, I don't know, maybe it was early 90s. I'd been pretty well known for videotaping a lot of police actions, and had a number of people indicted on August 6th, 7th, 6 cops actually for police brutality. The police riot on August 6th, 7th, 1988. Anyway, so I had a reputation. So anyway, eventually the cops come in, and then they jump me. And it's really interesting because this one cop, I forget his name, but he kind of warned me. So it's sort of like you're in a huddle, and it's kind of like you're under a waterfall or something. You're getting pummeled from above. And then all of a sudden this guy said to me, so you want to fuck me? And I thought, what? So then I just tightened my legs really tight, because this is after Volpe with the plunger. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy's weird. So what happened is, long story short, I got beaten up, ended up going to the hospital. So a couple of things. One is, in my watch pocket, I had the dope bag, and it had dope in it. That was what Cochise had given me earlier from Tony's brother. And so in the hospital, and so I had to tell the cop, I got to go to the bathroom, because I figured I would be really searched. And if they found this heroin bag, it would be nasty. So anyway, I told the cop I had to go to the bathroom. So of course you go into the bathroom, they leave the door open and all that. But I was able to reach into my watch pocket, dump the heroin bag down the toilet. Then I got up, flushed the toilet, so I was out of that. But they put on the cuffs really tight. And the other trick that they did was, so as they're gang jumping me, all these people were around, because it was a big fire. So you have all these Hispanics from the projects. And what the cops said, this is great, you love this. They said, we got the guy that started the fire. We got the guy that started the fire.
Meaning you?
Meaning me. Yeah. So they got me, my handcuffed behind my back. They're wrenching up my back. Hurts like crazy. But anyway, my handcuffs were really tight. And by the time I got down to the hospital, they were like really tight, and I couldn't feel my hands and things like that. So I said to the nurse, can I get these, ask the cop to loosen them? And she just ignored me. So I know the cops were in there telling them that I was just arsonist or something. Anyway, that went on. But the amazing thing is, I did a lawsuit. And there was a cop, his name was Kelly, and he was a patrolman. He was there the night of the fire. Now, you're not going to believe this, but it's in the record. The cop Kelly said, when my lawyer asked him, did this person say, so you want to fuck me? And he repeated it, which was like, for me, unbelievable, because I never thought that would happen because of the thin blue wall. So somehow this guy wasn't liked. So somehow this guy probably was some sort of creep. So the other guy sort of iced him out. A little shocked by that.
So at one point I listened to one of your Instagram reels, and you mentioned that you thought doing art saved your life. What? Tell me about that.
What does that mean? What it means is this. I come from what I call the bad end of the working class. The neighborhood we were brought up in, the school that I went to, like the junior high school, elementary school, it was considered a really bad disciplinary school in the city.
Where was it exactly?
This was Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, okay.
This is northeast. So I lived in this school. And so we had these special teachers, especially by the time you get to junior high school. And they're like ex-military. So they're giving us all this crap about, we're ex-military, we're here, we're going to discipline you guys. And it's kind of like, all right. But anyway, not so interesting. Now, the interesting thing is I was never criminally minded. But somehow I always ended up in the principal's office. I was in a train accident when I was 13. There's 4 of us riding to the Stampede Parade. Now, at that time, anybody with a horse could ride in the parade. The parade in Calgary, the Stampede Parade, is the biggest event of the year. It's like the Super Bowl parade. It's massive, and it's free. It's public. So they have bands and all kinds of American bands, all kinds of marching bands, floats, whatever. It's a big deal. So we're going to the parade. Now we have to cross this trestle, or we have to go down this steep slope where a fast-moving highway, it's like an FDR drive. So on horses, you'd be going down really steep, which means you'd be going fast at the end, which means you go out on the road and you'd probably get in an accident. Horses don't really like train tracks or trestles because the footing isn't that secure. So there's two older guys. Who knows how old they were? I'm 13. They could have been 20. They looked 60 to me. Who knows? And the girl ahead of me was 15. So the first two guys got across. They got to the other side. They got off their horses, and they turned around. They looked at us, and we started going across. So I'm going to go last. So the 15-year-old girl goes next, and then I'm right behind her. And all of a sudden, there's this big hill, and this dayliner comes around the hill. Woo, 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 woo. And it's like, dayliner is like a short passenger train that's fast. So I hopped off my horse, and I run back, and I just got off the trestle to the side where the grass and things were, and I turn around and wham! The train hits the horse, and the girl goes up. She goes up about 10 feet and goes down about 30. So altogether, it's like 40 feet. But she lands on the curved part of the slope, so she didn't get killed, but she really got damaged. It took her years to learn how to walk and talk, and she was in a coma for 91 days. So anyway, that came up. So what happens is, above the fold in the papers that day was a train accident. So you got the chuck wagons, you got the whole hoopla, you got everything going, and then you got this miserable story about a train accident. And actually, like in the Calgary Herald that day, I was mentioned. I said if she'd only jumped off her horse, she could have been okay. So I got proof of that story. Anyway, so I got to art school. I did not like art school at all. It was my first real sort of interaction with the middle class, and it did not go well. It was terrible. I got along with the other students and all of that, but the instructors and I just didn't click. So anyway, what I met out of that was Elsa. So Elsa's the one who changed my life.
Where was this?
In Calgary, University of Calgary. So I got into the art department. I was there for one semester, and I said, no, this is not for me. Just was not for me. There was too much hocus pocus, put a little blue over here, a little pink over there. Nah, I'm not into that. So I switched to teaching education. And luckily, in my third year, it's a 4-year degree, and art teaching jobs are really hard to get. But somehow I got offered this job in my third year, because in Canada, it used to be, or in Alberta, because it was in the prairies and the pioneers and like that, it used to be possible to start teaching with a third year certificate. So I was able to get a certificate, and I went to school over the summer and the holidays and whatever, and I got my degree. But I got this job teaching at this high school, which was absolutely fabulous. And
you were teaching art.
I was teaching art, and I got there through Elsa, basically. I mean, if Elsa sort of stabilized me, she made me sort of, basically she made me into a human being, I guess. I was a human being before, but this way I'm motivated. I have a goal in mind. I'm productive. I got my youthful offender. Ended up in high school in a fight with the cops. So I went to jail in high school in grade 11. But I got my felonies expunged. All of that worked out. Everything was fine. Got this teaching job, which was great. So I did that for... I got one class from grade 10 to grade 12 all the way through. And I was really into this program. And Elsa was into crafts. So between the two of us, I knew how to do ceramics. We had a wheel. We had a really well equipped program. So we could do batik. We could do all these different crafts, soapstone carving, all of this stuff. And so how do you make a shirt? Or how do you get a sweater? So got a farmer to bring in a sheep, brought the sheep to school, sheared the sheep in class. So this is all hands-on. So this is making concepts into reality. In other words, so now you start off with the sheep, you find where does the wool come from. You start washing the wool, you find that it's all greasy. Then you realize, well, lanolin comes from sheep's wool. So then you learn all of these different things. And then you learn that you can take a pencil and an apple, and you can attach a piece of this wool to it and drop it, and you can start doing, making thread by doing a drop spin. And we also got over to the Heritage Museum there, and they showed us the spinning wheel and all of that. And that story actually made it into the school newspaper. This was a small country school. It shared two different Native American reservations. One was the Paul band, which was really poor, and then there was the Enoch band, which is really wealthy. And then you had all the country kids and the town kids that went to the school. Anyway, it was a great job, and I loved it. So,
funny, just me interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, I was teaching in the South Bronx. My class was completely black and Latin.
Right.
And I had reserved a spot to go to the Museum of the City in New York, and they have a kind of a how-to room where you can make wax candles, you can weave and do all these different things, just like you described. Except the other class that came at the same time was from the Dalton School.
Oh, okay.
So there were all these kids in powder blue blazers with Madras pants, and my kids who were really rough and tumble kids.
Right.
And basically, they took over. My kids took over, and they were completely running everything.
Of course.
Warming the beds and doing it. And their teacher said, "Will you please control your class?" And the teacher was also very much like the kids. And I decided I was incapable of controlling my class, and it was fun to watch these little rich brats,
But yeah, Elsa changed my life. I mean, she came from an intellectual family. I mean, she came from a very smart family. Like her sister became an anesthesiologist. She broke through the sort of glass ceilings in Western Canada in medicine because this was starting off in the 50s. Her brother went to school in Switzerland, then he went to the special school in London, then he got a master's from Berkeley and engineering stuff. And her father built bridges, and they built the main terminal at the Edmonton Airport. Anyway, she came from a very smart family. And we were like a team. So Elsa, I owe everything to Elsa. It's absolutely a fact of life. If it wasn't for Elsa, I wouldn't be here. So she kind of saved my life and did all of that. All of the good stuff in my life is because of her.
Well, that's nice. You're lucky you ran into her.
Oh, unbelievably lucky.
Yeah, so
blessed.
So this has been magical. There's so many different threads that we've started. We could go on forever. But it's been a pleasure having you.
Well, thank you.
Interviewee.
It's been fun for me too.
Great stories.
Well, we do the best with what we got, right?
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Compulsive Storyteller, and we'd love to hear from you. This podcast is independently produced, so we really appreciate all your help and support. Share the show with your friends, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. You can also check out our website, thecompulsivestoryteller.com, for more information. Thanks for listening, and if you didn't like this one, the next one will be another story. The Compulsive Storyteller is now co-produced by Gregg LeFevre and Fadia Montserrat, who's also arranged the music and created the special effects. Emily Ramon does design, research, editing, and marketing. Peter Kokoma has made our theme music and for many seasons co-produced the show with me. All characters and events portrayed in this podcast are based on my truth, with some names and facts changed for privacy. The conversations and dialogues are based on my best memory, but are not word-for-word recreations.